Hello, hello. Today is October 21st, 2021. And this is number 29. So it's about 2 p.m. It's a beautiful October afternoon. Just perfect 76 degrees. And anyway, I recorded a video this morning already because I had to drive to another city about an hour away. And I recorded a video while I was driving, but it turns out that in the background of the car you can see signs, and I just don't want to give away my location. So until I can find some kind of software that can automatically edit out street signs, I guess I'm just gonna have to keep doing it in the woods like this. So a couple things I want to talk about. First off, I don't know about this whole no titles idea. I mean, I'm going back and forth, because on one hand, if I just put a number up and no title, I'm gonna get a lot fewer views. And do I really care about that, is what I'm thinking about. Is like, do I care if people are clicking on these videos? Not really. Like, that doesn't bother me so much, but like, the thing that I'm afraid of is well, what was happening was I was thinking too hard about the title, and I never have a title in mind. Like, I'll have a subject when I start the video, but sometimes I'm not going to have a subject. Sometimes I'm just going to turn the camera on and just say exactly what comes to my mind first, and then I could talk about 10 different things within 30 minutes or something, and how am I supposed to title that? So I think some of them are going to have titles and some won't. I think that's just how I have to do this. I really don't want to make them clickbaity either. I really hate the videos that are just these clickbaity titles, and I was kind of falling into that already. So when I do put titles on, it's just going to be as accurate a description as possible of the subject I was discussing. Anyway, that's the plan for that. And so today, what I already talked about in the car, because I was listening to a podcast with Andrew Yang, and he was talking about the child tax credit. So I just thought I would talk about kids. And, that's a big subject, but the intention behind the child tax credit is that it will help parents raise their children better, because they'll have more money. They get some money back. They can pay less in taxes for each kid they have. And I mean, that's great. I support that. I think any reasonable person should support that. Because you want, at least on paper, in theory, I don't know if it works out this way, but you want parents to be able to raise better kids, right? So better kids means better adults, better for the whole country. That's the idea. But I think importantly, and this is what I talked about in the car, was there's this idea like we're running into overpopulation. Like, that's a coming problem, like it's already a problem. That's a myth. We are headed towards a population collapse, most likely, if you look at real projections. We need to have more kids. We really do. Like, everybody does. And so, like, we're going to hit this situation where there's going to be too many old people and not enough young people. The replacement rate will be too low. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's going to happen soon. So my goal is to have as many children as I can possibly support. That's my plan. My number in my head is 7, but I mean, that really depends on my future partner. So gonna have to have a wife that's down to pump out some kids, which in this day and age seems to be a harder type of woman to come by. All these women are just think that their career is important, or they think that their bodies are important, or like they don't want to use their body to produce children. That is a very common theme. That is a big part of the reason me and my last serious relationship ended. To her, her own life and her own body were more important than whatever amount of damage would happen from burying a child. And that's tough for me to argue against. That's a tough one to argue. Plus, she was a big climate change person, and she was one of these people that thought the world was going to be on fire in 50 years, and that it was kind of immoral to bring other humans into the world. And I just think these are stupid arguments, which is what I told her. And we don't talk anymore. So anyway, yeah, I bought this place, these woods. There's a house up there that I still haven't shown. I drove out here and I bought it with cash. I bought it straight up, and it's a real rundown house. It's super beaten up. I basically bought the land and got the house for free because I'm still, I don't owe any person any money. I sort of think it as I owe the universe money because I'm still some tens of thousands of dollars away from restoring this house. So the materials, I'm in debt material cost and my own physical effort cost, my labor. But once it's finished, I don't gotta pay anybody nothing. I'm out. No more rent for the rest of my life. About $900 in property tax a year, and that's it. So I'm ready to support a family. That's part of the reason I've done this. So the plan is I'm going to have children, and then I'm going to homeschool them. I'm not sending them to school. I think school is a complete waste of time. At this point, school is just daycare. It's state-sponsored daycare, pretty much. And it's just, I'm pretty confident that I can teach my kids, that I could teach my own children better than the public school system, at least, and probably better than most private schools as well. And I can't be the only one that feels this way. I've had a variety of school experiences myself. I went to probably 6 or 7 different schools throughout my life. So, and I had a variety of experiences, but most of the time I felt like I was generally just ahead of my class, and then my class was slowing me down. And the system wasn't teaching, you have one teacher to 30 kids, and it's not a good system for anybody, really. Everybody sits in a room, there's like 20 to 40 kids, you all gotta face the same direction, face the adult at the front of the room. All of your self-esteem and your incentive structure, your entire universe is built around just satisfying the one moron in front of the room. And I'm not calling teachers morons, but some of them are morons. Some of them. And the other problem is, our university system is clearly fucked. Clearly. I don't know who can disagree with that. University degrees just aren't worth what they used to be worth. And whatever it is that's killing the universities, I think we can all agree that there is a thing that's killing them. But whatever you want to call that thing, it has destroyed the university of education first. Like the people that are getting taught how to teach, those were the first ones to get screwed up. And I think we've been producing just shitty teachers for a very long time. And, again, I'm not saying that all teachers are bad. I'm sure there's plenty of great teachers, but there's plenty of horrible teachers. And sending your kids to school is just like rolling the dice now. So, not going to do it. I'm not rolling those dice. I'm going to teach my own kids. When it comes to math and science, I can bring them to a above 18-year-old level way before they're 18, like above high school level. I don't see any reason why my children won't know calculus by the time they're 13-ish, right? There's no real reason that is even that difficult. And then when it comes to science, that's another thing I can do pretty well. I can get my kids up to a high school level in science pretty fast. And then when it comes to other things like history is just reading. And teaching kids to read is generally pretty easy as long as you have the one-on-one time. So, like most of this I feel like I can nail because I can just work from home. My career is I can work remotely. I can spend a lot of time on children with one-on-one time, and I can just teach them everything. And when it comes to literature, maybe humanities, some of the social sciences, it's not going to be my strong suit. But literature is just reading good books and then talking about them, breaking them down. And I can do that better than a kid can do that, at least. So I can at least get them to my level. And I don't know where my level is, but I would spend time on that. And then history, again, like I said, is just reading. And so math, science, history. Science is just bio, geology, chemistry, physics. I can do all that above high school level. So what else is there? Music. We'll have instruments in the house. I can teach how to play piano and guitar well enough. Art is going to be a weakness for me. But I was thinking, as I have kids and as they're getting older, I'll find other parents around me and other parents with similar kind of self-reliant mindsets, I think, and we'll just trade kids for a day. Like you just set up some kind of multi-parent schooling system where the group of kids kind of rotates between parents. And maybe there's a parent in the neighborhood that's good at art or painting or something, and my kids and her kids can go over there, or their kids, and for art lessons, all the kids in the neighborhood go to one parent's house, and then for computer science lessons, they can come over to my house. And everybody just covers each other's weaknesses. And if you just do that, I don't see why anybody needs to go to school. So they can go to college if they want, but I'm not going to encourage it. I think college is generally not a good idea at this point. It depends. I think you can still get a good college education. You just have to know what you're looking for and then put the effort in. And so, yeah, that's a lot about kids right there. That's a lot about my philosophy. And the other thing is, I have this 10 acres and I have a house. I'm going to have to do repairs, build new things, and every time I do a project, I'll just show my kids what I'm doing. I'll get them to join in, I'll get them to help me with it. I'll ask them to solve problems, depending on their age, you just kind of introduce problems to them, and you have them solve them, and you have them fix these things, or, you show them how to pour concrete, I'll show them how to cut a 2x4 to build a shed, show them how to wire new outlets, how to do all sorts of electrician kind of stuff, plumbing, how to plumb a new sink, just anything with a structure. You just show them how you're building it, and that can be a gigantic educational experience for any level of kid. For a 5-year-old or a 15-year-old, that can be turned into a lesson. And to me, that kind of hands-on experience, like if you can do that stuff, you can do anything you want. I'll teach them how to write JavaScript, I can teach them all that stuff too. Teach them computer science stuff. I know by saying JavaScript, I lose the respect of some of those software developers out there. But you know what? If you're turning your nose up at JavaScript at this point, then I think you're a little stuck up. I just probably pissed off some computer people out there. All right, what was I going on about? Kids, yeah. So the other thing is that I was thinking about is, as I have kids, I have a limited amount of space in my house. So, they're going to grow up and they're going to get bigger and need more space. And I think one of the things I'll do, these leaves are really crunchy. I know that comes up on the audio, and it is something that I am working on fixing. I think it's only going to happen every fall, really, if you think about it. But I'll go through and rake them out. I'm about to get to a clear spot. So yeah, I'm thinking as the kids get older and as they need more space, you just turn that into an educational lesson, because it'll be like, okay, you're turning 10, you're turning 13, you want your own room, you want your own space. Here's a budget, I'd say here's $5,000, budget it out. We're going to build you a tiny little house, or we're going to build you, it could be an extension on the current house, or it could just be a tiny house. I mean, there's plenty of space here. And so we go to Home Depot, we get the stuff. Well, first they plan it out, and then we go to Home Depot, we get the stuff, and I help them build it. And they can design it however they want. And that can be like a little lesson, because now they have to, they can't. The thing about school that sucks about school is that to get an A, to pass, all you have to do is satisfy the human being in front of you. And everybody, like for me, I was a huge schmoozer. I knew how to schmooze the teachers. I could just BS my way through half of the classes, at least. And that's not, to some extent, that is a good life skill. You're always going to have to know how to satisfy people in positions of authority, right? You're always going to have to know how to kind of play the political game. So school does teach you that, but it doesn't. You need to have physical interactions with the real world, because you can't trick a house. Like if you build a house incorrectly, it will collapse. And there's no schmoozing that. Like you have to get it right, or there will be a physical consequence. And so that'll be kind of a lesson for my children as they get older, because they'll be like, okay, you want your own space, because naturally they're going to want their own space. And there's 10 acres here, so there is space. And it'll be like, all right, you want your own space, go make space, right? And it's not like I'm kicking them out, like I will help them. But if they want to just take a sleeping bag out in the woods, they can do that. If they want to build their own thing, they can do that. And if they have to build something, they're going to have to solve problems. And those problems will, like my job, my role as a father, as a parent, really will just be to make sure they don't hurt themselves dramatically, make sure they're not just like making massive errors, but sort of let them go out there and figure out how to make mistakes, how to learn. I'm sure they're going to make all sorts of mistakes, and I'll be able to I'll just make sure they don't die, really, or hurt themselves very badly. That's kind of my job. And then make sure that they kind of learn. So that's my plan. That's what I'm going to do. And I can't think of a better way of educating children to survive in this world. Sending them to school doesn't do anything. It's just daycare. It's just a waste of time. And they get, if you're thinking about how are they going to have social, one of the common counter arguments would be like, oh, how are they going to make friends? How are they going to socialize? Just, we'll be part of the community. We'll do things, they'll play sports. Maybe we'll be in a church or something like that. Or some sort of community. Just, it's not like they're not going to have friends that will be their age, right? So, and I will encourage that, because they need to have friends that are their age. And around their age. I think it's good to have just a lot of interactions with a lot of... Alright, I'm going even... So there's communities that have more interaction between older and younger people. Generally people will live longer. There's those places like Okinawa, and places like somewhere in Greece. There's 3 distinct places where people live a lot longer. And it has to do with diet, and it has to do a lot with their culture. But one of the important aspects of their culture is they'll have a lot of interaction between the older members of the community and the younger members. And so I think that's part of what church solves in sort of American society, at least. I think that church kind of provides an environment where, okay, everybody in the community goes to one building every week on a Sunday. And, there's going to be 80-year-olds there and 8-year-olds there. And they'll have some degree of interaction. And I think that's important. I think you need to... that's something a lot of kids miss these days. Because you need to have... As long as everybody's in a community and well-intentioned, right? You still got to watch out for creeps and things like this. But if you have a trustworthy older member of your community, that person is a source of wisdom. I mean, they've been alive for decades and decades. They should be able to impart some of that onto the next generation. And so part of the issue is, the world is so different now for a 20-year-old than it was for an 80-year-old when they were 20, that what can my grandfather tell me about Instagram? Not a lot. But, it's important to see there's all sorts of variables that go into raising a child. And you can take school, like public school, even private school, kind of out of the solution entirely and really not lose anything. Really, schools are just not necessary anymore. Or I can solve the problem better. Really. I mean, think about, I got this place. I still haven't showed off the house or the van. But I have this van. I'm really into the whole van life thing. I have these 2 batteries, secondary batteries, and I think with the rise of lithium battery technology, it's going to be way easier to do a kind of a mobile lifestyle. Like, so much easier that it's like, I don't think our collective consciousness has caught on to what's going on with batteries yet. There's no reason why, there should be almost no excuse for people to not be open to the possibility of living out kind of in a mobile lifestyle. Like, I understand all the complaints, you don't have as much space. There are certain challenges, but we are at the point now, or at least we're on the brink of the point, where you can have incredibly fast internet anywhere. You can have practically limitless electricity. So you can run microwaves, refrigerators, you can have a hot water heater. Depending on how big your vehicle is, you could have a shower and a toilet on the inside. And there's challenges. You got to make sure your batteries are charged. You got to make sure you're dumping out waste. And there are people who have been doing this for decades already. Like, there are RV livers already. When I was driving here from California, I stopped by Tyson Wells. And it's in the desert between Southern California and Arizona. I don't remember if it's near the border between the two of those. I don't remember which side it was on. I want to say it was in Arizona, but it was a desert where tens of thousands of RVs just scattered in the desert. Scattered. Like, there's a dirt road. Well, there's a main road that goes through the middle, and then there's kind of dirt roads that branch out, and they're just roads that people have just dug out by driving them so often. And it's just desert where it's nice and flat. And it's funny because it's safe in a way, because you can park far enough away from people where you can't really, there is privacy in the sense that, like, they can't hear you, they can't really see you, you're kind of small on the distance. Like, you can, obviously the closer you get to the main road and to the main, there's like a main hub where people trade. There was like an outpost, like a little, there's people selling food, RV repair parts, just a place to hang out, tables and things set up in the middle. And then as you branch out, you can get more and more privacy. So, like, personally, I stayed there overnight. And I just drove way out, and where I parked, I could kind of, I could see people in the distance. And so there's a sense of security, because if somebody tries to rob me or come attack me, I could flag down everybody around me, be like, help! And, like, it wouldn't be, I am relying on strangers to help me, but, like, what I'm saying is it's not as dangerous as you would think. And it's also, the lifestyle is easier than I think people think it is. Like, I talked to so many people while I was building out this van. I've had this conversation with a lot of people talking about van life and this whole mobile living thing. There's a lot of hang-ups. And I think it just comes from ignorance. It comes from a lack of understanding. So anyway, I was going to buy a bigger van or a bus, like one of those short buses. Maybe a long bus, I don't know. And then deck it out to have bunk beds for kids. And then so me and my wife and my family can drive around in the future. And we can go to national parks and stuff. We could just do crazy, like, big road trips around the U.S. or around the whole continent, really. And again, what better way to educate children than to just walk into a national park, and then just answer their questions as they come up. Just like a 5-year-old goes, hey, why does that tree look like that? You either answer it on the spot, or you say, oh, we're going to check this out later. We're going to look this up later. And then they can just learn about biology directly, or geology, right? We can go to state parks where there's just big geological structures, and we can talk about plate tectonics and, you know, erosion and all this stuff. And it's like, it just comes to my knowledge. What can I impart to them personally? And then anything I can't, we just kind of write it down in a little notebook, and later we go, okay, what did we not know? How do we look it up? And then that automatically leads to, okay, how do I find information on the internet safely? Because you're going to have to, one thing we're all going to have to do in the future, everybody that's got kids now, or any time from now, is going to have to teach their children how to use the internet. Like internet safety and knowledge, which is just it's just a really hard subject, but you can sort of walk them through it. Because like, I can't keep them from the internet. I can't tell them never use it, because that would never work, right? You know, and I can't tell them, hey, don't look at porn, because they're gonna find it, right? Especially if they're a little teenage boy, they're gonna find it. So you have to. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'll talk about that in a different video. That's a whole subject. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to talk about today, was kids. Kids. There's so many interesting challenges that come up with that. But mainly, I just think, as long as I have a job where I work remotely, which seems pretty realistic, you know, it's not that tough to make a job to make a little bit of money as a software developer. At least not for me, it's not. I think people that think that they can't code are just, I don't know. That's another video I'll have to make. Alright, I'm going to end this video by showing you a fallen tree that I'm currently standing on. This is a big tree. This fell down about a month ago. You know, it used to be way up here. Look at this. This thing must have come down with a thunderous crash. And it fell down right on my path, you know? This is the path I had cleared out. I always got to climb over it. If you watch the videos, I'm always climbing over this thing. I bought a chainsaw. I'm going to have to cut through it right here. But I mean, I think this is thicker than my chainsaw is long. I don't know yet. I don't know. This whole thing over here, this is kind of a lower part of the land. It gets really wet when it rains. And then there's a hill over here. All right, I'm gonna stop this video now. See you later. Bye.